don't enjoy you, and you know you don't enjoy.
Hi, this is AF Charters for A Critical State. Today you join us in the city-state of the City of London. You heard correctly. This is a city-state. It's not part of the UK in the proper jurisdiction, okay? So we're going to be talking today to Dom and Vin from Standing in Commerce. So let's go to the scene of the Fire of London, which is what the monument here commemorates. This is a major historical event that happened in 1666, and there's a lot of hidden history that you need to know about this. So here I am walking into Pudding Lane. This is a really historic place, and I'm joined by a couple of gentlemen who are going to fill us in on some of the history. So I have Dr. Dominic here from Standing in Commerce, nice to meet you. And I have Vincent, who's also going to be filling us in on the judicial system and law. So first of all, we're going to move over to Dominic, because he's studied in great detail what has been happening here in London in 1666. And I don't mean just what was happening here in Pudding Lane, but events that were happening off camera, shall we say, in Westminster.
But we like the idea of making it better, but we just can't be bothered. So what more can we do? Yes, we like the idea of making it better, but we just can't be bothered.
So Dominic, Pudding Lane, the Great Fire of London, 1666. We learn about this in our school history. Some of us that live close enough, like myself, will be lucky enough to do a trip to come and see Pudding Lane, where the bakery was set light. We'd hear about the Great Plague and how it was a terrible event.
Absolutely. But just like when Rome burned, when London burned, there were great changes happening over in Parliament, not so far from here.
What kind of changes were those?
Well, the subrogation of men and women's rights.
In what way were they subrogated?
Well, there was an act passed. It's like when Rome burned, when London burned, there were great changes happening over in Parliament, not so far from here.
What kind of changes were those?
Well, the subrogation of men and women's rights.
In what way were they subrogated?
Well, there was an act passed whilst London was burning.
Right. So literally while the fire is burning down here?
Well, it takes a long time to bring a statute to the books.
Right.
It takes a lot of architecture and a lot of thinking by the judiciary, and then to debate it through Parliament.
Sure.
And obviously the Black Death was carried on for quite some time here.
Certainly.
But the question I would ask is, what was the Cesti V Act of 1666 being put on the statute books whilst, you know, the proverbial hell was happening on the streets of London?
Now, for those of you who are not quite sure what this act is that Dominic has just talked about, we will actually be putting links on the website and probably bringing up information about this at the end of the show. So don't worry if you can't follow the intricate detail. It's much more important to understand the bigger picture. So Dominic, this Cesti Act, what did it actually say?
Well, after several hundred readings, we finally came to the conclusion that it would appear that all of the citizens, all the men and women of the United Kingdom were declared dead and lost beyond the seas.
What does that mean then?
Well, the state took everybody and everybody's property into trust, and the state became the trustee husband behind all the and owns all the titles to both the people and their property.
So the state took control by saying everyone is dead.
And until a living man or woman comes back and claims their titles, and when they do prove that they are alive, then the titles can be revested and they can claim for damages.
Okay, so essentially where we are right now is that still today, here in 2009, that legally speaking, you and I, on camera, we are dead.
Absolutely, because you didn't claim your titles back after 7 years, as it says in the statutes.
Wait a minute, 7 years after 1666?
7 years after you were born.
Oh, really? So I have time from when I'm born to when I'm 7 to claim?
Yes. Otherwise, you are dead beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay.
And therefore, the state takes your property and your body into trust.
That's fascinating. And this all came about as a result of the Great Fire?
Well, it could be a bit of a smokescreen.
Right. That's a nice metaphor. So the Cestui Act fundamentally underlines that you or I are dead. Now, does that have anything to do with when we go to court and we're not allowed to represent ourselves?
Absolutely. We're starting to see the beginning of the creation of a legal fiction, of a dead entity.
What is a legal fiction?
Is a construct on paper. So when you get a bill or a summons from a court, it's always in capital letters.
Right.
Now, last time I went into a graveyard, on all the graves, all the names, all the men and women were in capital letters.
Right.
That's mortmain, probate, death.
Right.
So the state or the corporation that writes to you in all capital letters is writing to a dead legal fiction.
So do I have a legal fiction?
A legal fiction was created when your mother informed the state or the Registrar General that there was a new vessel in town when you were birthed. So you have a birth certificate just like a ship.
Now, a birth certificate is spelled B-I-R-T-H, but we're talking about a birth, that's in B-E-R-T-H, which is where you would moor a boat. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, your mother had a birth canal,
Right.
just like a ship.
Okay, so
I think you could say that beyond reasonable doubt that the legal fiction is classified as a vessel, and as we now understand, is floating on the sea of commerce.
so I'm an actor in commerce.
Yes, you have a legal fiction which allows you to operate in commerce, and it was created when your mother and father registered you and got a birth certificate from the Registrar General.
But they didn't know anything about this, right?
They didn't know anything about it. They just thought that they were doing the same thing as happened before in the 18th century and before, where people would go to the church and ask the priest or the vicar to give them a slip of paper and put them into the local registry in the church and give them a copy for their own Holy Bible at home.
So when did this change over?
In about 1837, when the Birth, Death and Marriage Act and the post of Registrar General came into being, and his job was to collect all of the records from all the churches.
Now, the word regus I find very interesting, because register comes from regus. That means the queen.
Absolutely.
Or the crown. So that would actually mean that children are property of the crown. Is that correct?
The legal fictions are indeed.
So does that have any ramifications for our viewers?
Well, the Registrar General holds everybody in custody.
So essentially everyone that is a UK citizen, registered with a passport, national insurance number, etc., is essentially in custody.
That's right.
But being in custody typically is something that you think of as the police doing when you've done something wrong. But that doesn't necessarily mean that custody in the way that you're using it is a bad thing.
No, the creation of the legal entity, sometimes known as a straw man or a straw party, allows men and women, one, to function in commerce, and two, to accept the benefit privileges provided by the state.
What kind of things
Such as national health insurance, national insurance, the dole, clothes, food, heat.
Right.
No, we don't ain't got nothing about being